going to do a segment here. We've done a few of them. It's the Brandomizer. We've got a bunch of different brands put in here because there are brands out there that they're quietly doing their thing and they're just never doing anything super sick or super terrible or outrageous or
like
headline grabbing enough for us to talk about. So we throw them in a wheel. We're going to spin it and we're going to give our opinions about these kind of under the radar, under talked about potentially brands.
Spin the wheel, but we added Stone Island in.
We did.
It definitely does not fit that description. Underappreciated.
Oh no, that's true. That's true.
But either way, when was the last time I spoke about Stone Island? So
exactly. That's kind of why I thought to put it in. It's like when do we ever talk about that? If it lands on that, then we're gonna,
Then
it's close.
Givenchy. Sure. I almost want you to spin that wheel again. But I'll talk about Givenchy. For one, it's the only brand that I pronounce correctly, or at least not anglicized in any way. I don't say like Saint Laurent or like Louis Vuitton.
So why is that? Why is Givenchy the one that you do correctly?
Because I think there's something about it that's easy to remember. Just like the sounds of it. The sounds are so weird. It's like, oh, I'll never forget that.
Right.
Like, don't show me the letters. Don't show me the letters. You'll only confuse me. Givenchy.
It's true though. The emphasis, it sticks with you once you get it, right?
Yeah. And for anybody who only speaks and reads in English, like me, that reads Givenchy. And
it does. Very, very much.
You'll never accidentally say it right if you didn't know. So I guess about Givenchy. It's a French brand by a French guy. It's been owned by Kering or LVMH for 100 years. One of them. I don't know which.
Which one is it?
It's probably one of them.
Oh, it's 100% one of them.
It's probably one of them. And Givenchy, I feel like, had to come up at least in, AD times after death. During Riccardo Tisci's tenure as a creative director, he was, when they first started doing this Kingmaker stuff, he was like the hot young whippersnapper who revitalized the brand. So without a doubt, his impact was felt. And from that point on, Givenchy. Well, Riccardo Tisci's.
Go ahead.
Riccardo Tisci's Givenchy was ahead of the curve in terms of the marriage between streetwear and high fashion. Think of the Star Prince. Think of the Rottweiler. Think of
the Sharks.
The Sharks. Think of the like Bambi bags and all those different bags they did. Is there a creative director of Givenchy I'm forgetting? Well, I mean, there was obviously multiple others, but
after that, I forget her name, but it was, I think of them as the dark times.
Yeah, that's a Malaise era.
4 or 5 year period where it was just like they were around. Everyone, I think, was still, or somebody was still buying the like logo T-shirts and hoodies and stuff because they were still everywhere.
Somebody's always buying.
But from like a design perspective, like it was just not literally nothing. Claire, they recognized that eventually. And
Claire Keller. Yeah.
What's it? What's the name?
Claire Keller from 2017 to 2020. So 3 years. Riccardo Tisci, in retrospect, my cat just opened my door, is meowing at me. Riccardo Tisci was the creative director for 12 years. So from 2005 to 2017. That's a long time to do a job.
Very.
Let alone a big boy job. So needless to say, that goes to show how impactful and successful he was in the role. And then from 2020 to present, the creative director has been Matthew Williams. That's right. The same Matthew Williams who is dating Lady Gaga.
And the one thing that I want to call out on that, just to like kind of set this up, because there are a couple things that I think he did like immediately that were very interesting and very important.
I'm listening.
They, I think, dropped like a ton of their stockists. Like anybody that was massively discounting them and like, oversaturating them, they were just like, no, they went way more exclusive on who they would allow to stock them. And the prices went way up. Like on screen right
Yeah.
here, if you're not watching, there's a destroyed windbreaker in nylon, retail price of $11,000 USD.
Mamma mia.
Givenchy was not charging that much for, I think, literally anything before Matthew Williams came on.
That's Mr. Williams. He must have been spending a lot of time with Eddie,
Right.
Slim Man, who said, and he asked, he was like, Eddie, what do I do? How do you revitalize a French
Yeah.
brand? And he's like, it's very easy. You go in there and you make everything very expensive. And then people are like, it must be good.
Right.
Because it's
Right.
way more expensive.
So what do you actually think of the modern
What do I
day
think?
Givenchy?
Well, if my videos and me just saying Helmut Lang's one of my favorite brands is anything to go by,
Mhm.
I also really like Matthew Williams. I've liked him. And I'm eager to say that even if he's like not cool anymore, because I feel like people think that. But I'm like, I wasn't just in it for the trend. I like his sense, like I like this kind of industrial looks.
Mhm.
So I think that him being at Givenchy is great. And I try to stay up to date with his runways, and kind of like when Demna joined Balenciaga, you know, Vetements is to Balenciaga, to Alix is to Givenchy.
Sure.
You're definitely seeing like kind of the adulting, or the more capacity and more restriction of Matthew Williams' design sense.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
We just found out that Givenchy makes a teddy bear. Don't let anybody see that.
Don't let anybody know.
Yeah.
So I think it's like Alix, if you had to do it more, you had more money to do it, and you had to just put more into it. And it looks that way. And for those reasons, I like it. But I wouldn't blame anybody who maybe thought like it wasn't changing the game enough.
Sure.
And that's just one of my kind of biases and flaws, is like, I recognize that. I recognize that you could say this isn't innovative enough, especially for such a big house. I get it. I do like a lot of the runway looks. I do like how I just like that kind of style. I like that kind of style. And he's one of the few designers who's kind of been steadfast in being kind of like slim silhouettes when everybody was like wider and wider.
Sure.
So, you know,
I think, I'll kind of lukewarmly agree with you.
Okay.
Obviously, I kind of unapologetically lean into like the hot topic aesthetic in certain ways. Like I respond to it. So obviously there's something I respond to in his Givenchy as well.
That makes sense.
I think it's kind of like it's Alix with an atelier at its fingertips, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's also found a little bit of that Riccardo Tisci kind of like metal vibe that wasn't really in Alix as much.
Yeah, I think there is still like a Riccardo Tisci kind of like
Yeah.
glossy obnoxiousness.
Right.
Like, because I think what Riccardo did well as Givenchy was it was obnoxious without going like some strange gaudy place. It like it was obnoxious and shocking and loud, but like kind of somehow in some way French sophisticated
Right.
too. Which I think is kind of like, that's like the magic behind what he did at Givenchy. So I do think that Williams is channeling that a little bit, you know, because these pieces, like almost everything is monochromatic.
Yep.
And even when it is like logo-y, it's still like, it has a lot better taste than
and one thing that it's got, as I'm looking through these, like there's a lot of branded t-shirts and hoodies and stuff. And like, but every time I'm going past these things, these accessories and bags and jewelry are all really good and really appealing in a way. Like I haven't thought about a Givenchy bag or accessory, you know, or I didn't before Matthew and Williams came on. Like it wasn't registering with me at all, you know, but these,
I'm trying to think.
I see them and I'm like, oh, you know.
Yeah. When you grow up, Killian, when you're a big boy and you start doing things, like knowing all of the big designer bags is like
Mhm.
I feel like that's something you have to know if you work in like high fashion. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of Givenchy's right now, because like like Gucci's like the
Sure.
Dion, Dionysus
Dionysus, right?
Dionysus and like the classic flap, or
Yeah.
you just remember all these names, or like
The
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 city
big
bag or the
Givenchy
motor bag.
bag is the Antigona.
Antecedent. Yeah,
This one.
Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Not like with that cross body. Well, at least
No,
I guess that's
no.
the reflip. That's the flip.
It's gotta be more under women.
Yeah.
Hold
I
on.
don't know. I'm trying to think of like what are the big bags that people
I've
still
I've
for
seen
from
them popping
Givenchy.
off.
Yeah. Um.
Eh,
Ah. Hmm. Huh.
huh.
Hmm.
That's just gonna be the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. Huh. Kitty, be
Yeah.
quiet.
I don't
Um.
recognize a ton of these actually, now that I'm
No, it's
seeing
not
them.
my deal.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just
I think this is the
tired of you.
Antigona is the biggest one.
Antigone. Like the
Yeah.
old country.
Right, right.
Uh at the end of the day, I
Yeah.
would say this. I bet I care more about Matthew Williams Givenchy than most people,
Mhm.
because I kind of pay attention to it. It
Mhm.
feels also like, what are their names? Luke and Lucy, I think. Luke and Lucy Mayer
At
of
Jill Sander.
yeah, Jill Sander.
Yeah.
Like I really like that stuff, but
Mhm.
I think it's similarly maybe not exploding,
Right.
because
Right.
you could definitely tell, like, when a designer hits the scene and changes the game, you can tell.
I
And I
just
think
thought of
like Daniel Lee was the last one to do that like that, honestly.
we need to find Givenchy. This is immediately getting replaced with OAMC for next time. You just
I'm
made
sure
me
you
think
guys
of
are my
that.
bomber. I have a few pieces from them still.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like a brand that I used to own more, and then you have no money, so you
Yeah.
sell them.
Right, right.
But
But
I
that
guess,
is the definition, I think, of like under discussed brand,
yeah,
you know?
true, Truby, and that's why I have it, because I'm kind of,
You
you
get it,
know,
you know?
I'm kind of cool. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
you like a thing? I only like something that's obscure.